All right, today what we're going to talk about is calculating your high school GPA for your transcript. So last week we talked about transcript, how to put together a transcript, a question we get, reasonable amount, putting together, how do you put the stuff that from the math courses on a transcript. And we had a whole lot of response from it, a lot of people asking questions, a lot of people downloading it, and very interested in that. So we're going to try to answer some of the questions that have come from that, is calculating GPA in homeschool high school courses, because that becomes part of the transcript. And apparently that's a big point of confusion of what to do. And I'll say even at the university, there's a little bit of confusion in terms of GPA. We don't calculate GPA in the classroom. That's done globally by the system. But what does it mean and what do we do with it? But today we're going to actually talk about that. And at the end, or I'm gonna do this in two parts. In the second part, I'm gonna talk about what do colleges actually do with it. When they get your information, your application, what's really happening behind the scenes. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm going to do that second. That's a little more detailed. But before anything, right down here below the video, or if you're looking at the blog post, there is a freebie that we give you. It's just a free tool of how to calculate your transcript. It's a guide. We'll show you. It will let you put the information in and create your GPA. So it's let's make it as easy as we can for you. So wondering how, this is the issue that we see all the time, wondering how to calculate my GPA for my homeschooler. The other question we sometimes get is, does it even matter? And as you're building a transcript, do I even need GPA to be in there? And can I kind of make up how I do it? We hear all these kind of things, and we hear people talking about it. So first of all, just the basic information. GPA stands for your grade point average. It's an average. And it's the most common way universities, colleges, junior colleges, everything else compare academic performance in your courses. Now, obviously, for most of them, they're going to use something like an ACT or an SAT in addition, and depending on who they are, how they do that. And they may use some other things, but let's face it, these are the things they really use. So it's the most common thing when I'm comparing what you did in high school to what Sally did in high school to what John did in high school. And I'm looking at all these applications, which, by the way, are generally thousands of them. When we're looking at these applications, how do we compare apples to apples or apples to oranges? Because it's crazy. Homeschoolers should assign a GPA. It's expected to be on the transcript. You should assign a GPA. It's not optional. It's optional. You don't have to do it, I guess. But if you're applying to college, they expect to see it, and if they don't, it's a red flag. Now there's two types of GPAs. There's unweighted GPA, which is basically what we want to talk about here. It means based upon a 4-point scale. So we give letter grades A, B, C, and D, right? That's kind of what we're all used to. And an A is 4. A B is 3. A C is 2, and so on and so forth. D is 1. F is 0. So this is the 4-point scale. And so everything is based upon 4 points. So a perfect GPA is a 4.0. Now, you see this weird stuff, and they come from these, especially these private schools, and, they come from everywhere. And you see GPAs of 5.0 and 4.5 and stuff like that, and you're like, that doesn't even make sense on a 4-point scale. Those are weighted GPA, and they give extra credit to advanced courses and all kinds of things like that. When we're looking at them in the university, we don't care. I mean, the GPA, you want a comparable GPA, so they're using the unweighted, and that's what you need to focus on is the unweighted. You can talk about the other if you want. So that's the two types: the weighted and the unweighted. The weighted one, you're just giving more credit, so you might call you might give 2 credits. Generally, each course gets 1 credit. So if you take algebra for a whole year, there's 1 credit. If you make an A, then that's times 4 points towards your GPA. If you make a B, that's 3 points. So sometimes they'll say, well, it's a 1.5 credit because it's advanced algebra or something like that. So now you multiply the 4-point A times 1.5. And so that's how you get these accelerated GPAs. Anyway, that's what the weighted is. And I don't think it helps you in the especially in a homeschool thing where they're looking for red flags. They're looking for reasons to say this person doesn't fit. It makes kind of sense. Maybe makes sense if you're in a big giant school system that has thousands of graduates, that many of those graduates go to school X, Y, or Z. Then they know what that means. And then they'll say, hey, we see hundreds of applicants from this one high school, and now it helps us compare. So I'm not saying it's not useful, but for us, in the homeschooling or coming from smaller high school systems, it probably does not help. So that's the simple method we're looking at. A is a 4.0, B is a 3 for each course. A gives you 4 points, B gives you 3 points, C gives you 2 points, D gives you 1 point, and at F, there's no points at all. All the points for the classes are added up and divided. So you would add up your 4s, 3s. Here's all your classes, and then you divide them out, and then that gives you your GPA. So it's not. And by the way, the downloadable tool will do that for you. It's quick and easy way to do that. So the thing that you have to think about as the homeschooler is keeping records along the way, because the transcript basically is going to look at 4 years of high school. For most of us, that's what we're going to look at. And so keeping up, when you're a senior or junior, whenever you start putting these things together, then you're like scratching your head, like, what did they do? What grade did they make? What evidence do I have? And so just keeping this along. Most homeschool cover schools or states, or however your rules are kept for where you are, will have you some kind of annual reporting. And so that helps you. But even then, you hand that information off to somebody often. You need to keep a copy because, and you need to keep your way. How did you get your GPA? So the tool that we're giving you will allow you to do that, and you can just build into it and build all 4 years into that, and that would make a great sense to you. So that's what you need. That's how we're calculating the GPA. And look, I'm a person of computers and tools, so since we've given you a tool to do it, you don't really have to think about it. It will do it, and it should make sense to you. And you can kind of see how it does that. So it's a Google sheet, or if you want to copy and paste it over to Excel or whatever you want to do, it allows you to create your own. Just like our transcript, I think it was a Google Doc. So, all right, now I'm going to switch gears. So hang on tight. So if all you needed to know is that, then you don't care about the rest of this. What I want to talk about now is some of the questions that we get about what does the university do with this. So, and when I hand off, and for those of you that don't care about universities, well, this doesn't matter to you. But what happens on the other side? So I've spent some time working with admissions office for us at the university, and it's a beast. And for most major universities, it is a beast. So who is reading it? You put in your application, there is an admissions officer. Now they may have different titles, but basically they are the readers of your application. They are full-time staff members of the university, and usually it's under the undergraduate admissions office. Most bigger universities have a graduate and undergraduate admissions office. Their job is to review the applications, ensure everything is there, right? That's a big deal because many times everything is not there. So the first thing is just apply on time, have a complete package, and actually that puts you in good running right there. Evaluate academic performance. That's their job. Once they're looking at them, they may be looking at academic performance, extracurricular essays, recommendations, and this depends on the school. Now, I want to back up just for 1 minute and say the barrier to get into college pretty much is always, can you pay the bill? And that's not jaded or anything. This is a business. Universities are a business. I don't care if they're profit, not-profit, whatever they are. They need students, and they need good students. So really the admissions officer job is get us good students. And let's run off the ones that aren't going to be a good fit for us for whatever reason. So some of the schools are very finicky about extracurricular activities and GPAs and things like that because they limit the number of students. And there's financial reasons for doing that. But for the most things, as long as you can just get a decent score on the SAT or ACT and have some kind of GPA on there, you're good. And some schools will even say, we don't care what all that is. If you want in, we will work with you. I've had schools tell me that. It depends on what you're wanting to do and where they're wanting to go, what they're wanting to learn. And we can talk more about that, but that's not the point today. Now, what the admissions officer job is to assign a rating or a summary for each applicant. Now, each admissions officer is going to have a lot of things to review. It's not just your son or daughter. Boom, there's a bunch of things. Usually they are regional, meaning that like for our university, we have one per we have at least one per county, and may not be. So the state's broken up into counties, and one person will have one county, and maybe they'll have multiple counties. One person typically will have people actually out of state will have maybe multiple people. Universities oftentimes target states, right? So University X may say, hey, we want to target people in Kentucky, or we want to target people in Tennessee. And so they will have those. And of course, then people come from all over the place. And then there's international admissions, which is usually a tougher job. By the way, most of your admissions officers, admissions counselors, whatever you want to call them, are very familiar with the high schools they're coming from. Most of them are fairly recent graduates from college themselves. They're young until you get to the more complicated things, such as international admissions. But that's who it is. There's somebody who might have graduated from the high schools that they're looking at. And by the way, a lot of larger universities have application or admissions officers that are over homeschools, and that's all they look at that's a big bundle of what they will look at is all the homeschool applications go to one or two people. That's not an unusual thing to see because there's a lot of them. So, all right, so that's who they are. And sometimes for the competitive schools, and we can define competitive a lot of different ways, but sometimes they may have a committee. And so the admissions officer is first glance, and then they will go to a committee that might be staff and faculty. Now that's a tall order because faculty don't want to do that. I don't care what they say. That's a lot of work, and so sometimes there's multiple staff. Sometimes they meet and review top candidates. Scholarships might fall into that too in any university. How do they apply different scholarships? Because scholarships are at different levels. might have individual committees, such as at the School of Engineering where we are. If there are engineering-based scholarships, faculty are involved in those decisions about where the scholarships fly. So all this hands through, and it gets to the right people at the right time. But it starts with the admissions officer. So they are looking at your transcript and your ACT and anything else you've given them. And basically this is like going to see the doctor, right? You've got 5 minutes to maybe 15 if you're lucky that they're going to look at it. They're going to look at this stuff, glance at it, and make some decisions. And this might be initial, and this may be your full review. So 2 to 3 minutes focus directly on your transcript and GPA. Quick, right? It's very quick. So for high volume schools, for instance, these people might see 50 to 100 applicants per day that they have to look at. So you can imagine sitting there doing this all day. Also depends on the time of day, right? There's lots of factors here, but you don't have a lot of time. They're not trying to read an essay. They're looking for things, and specifically they're looking for red flags, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But what are a couple of things they are looking for? They're looking for consistency and clarity. Does the transcript make sense? Is it organized? Is it readable? Are the course names labeled? You would be surprised. And especially when you get to homeschool and some creative stuff that we label, like we've said in the last video, name things what they're named. Don't get creative. We probably want to say Algebra 1 instead of Math Level 1. Because I'd be like, what's Math Level 1? We don't know what that is. So call it Algebra 1. I don't care what your textbook is called. I don't care what the vendor who called the course out, who sold the course to you calls it. You need to call it what the reasonable name is for this going into university. All of our courses are named pretty much that way. And most of them I know are pretty much named as they should be, but I'm sure there's something out there that just has creative names. Are credit hours indicated? So if they made an A, there should be 4. If they made it a B, there should be 3. That's what they're looking for. Are those applied? Is there a grade applied? Many will not have a grade. And is there a GPA? So you got all your grades here for an algebra and all this kind of stuff. And is there a GPA? Is there a grade point average, which is usually at the bottom of the transcript that they're showing? Here's their GPA. So, for instance, if you had an Algebra 1 with an A, what you would say is Algebra 1, A, and this may be, year XYZ, 2025. Algebra 1, A, 1 credit, meaning it was 1 year, 2 semesters. English, and let's say we'll call it 9th grade English, they got a B+. There was a 1 point credit. Then if we had a world history that they took, and it's an A, so it is a 1 point credit. Now when you start saying B+ and C- and all, just forget that, just as B. So when it averages out, so we got an A, a B, and an A. That's an A is 4, plus 3 is 7, plus 4 is 11. So we have 11 possible points out of 12 on a 4 times 4, which is the 4-point scale. I'm throwing this math at you, but it's in the spreadsheet. That would give them a GPA of 3.67. Now, just with those 3 courses. And that's what they want to see. They want to see the title, the grade, and the amount of credits. So a 1 semester credit would be 0.5. A 1 credit is for the whole year, for both semesters. So a bad example and things they do see is math, passed. Reading, excellent. They don't know what to do with that. Math, what math? Was it adding and subtracting, or was it calculus? Past, what does that mean? They made a D or an A. They don't know. Reading, we don't know what that means. And excellent, what's the difference between past and excellent? And they see transcripts like this. And so you don't want to be that. You want to look like all the other schools out there as best as you can, because not because you're trying to mimic what they're doing, but you're trying to help these admission counselors as they are comparing apples to apples. All right, so academic rigor, what are some things that they're looking for here? They are looking for core subjects: English, math, science, history, foreign language maybe. They're just looking, are the cores there? And they're going to, a core not being there is certainly a red flag. Are there advanced courses? Do you do honor, AP? So a lot of people that do calculus with us, for instance, will do AP calculus. Some people, some of them like dual enrollment or not, for that reason. But are there advanced courses? And there could be lots of different ways that they're advanced. Calling it honors is probably a common thing. If it's truly honors. Now, you need to back that up. If you're going to call something honors or something, it needs to be legitimate. Are grades believable or inflated? And so that's just a judgment call. And these people that they're looking at hundreds of these things, and they've done this probably a couple of years, and they've had conversations inside with more people with more experience. They got a good eye for. They'll catch things. They'll know things. For instance, if a student has only straight A's, they'll look for outside validation. Is there some way to validate this? How did they do on their ACT? What's going on? We see students with straight A's and some complicated courses that do really poorly on ACT and SAT. We also see the flip side. Students with fairly average grades but do super excellent on ACT and SAT. And those tell our counselors different things. And we won't go into that. But they're looking at all those things. Does this all line up? So generally, good grades, you would expect pretty good ACT and SAT scores. Just kind of common sense. And if it's not like a deal killer, but you have to explain what's going on. Course load by year is another thing they're looking at. Are there at least 4 to 5 solid courses per year? Like, did you take, and is there a clear progression? For instance, in math, they're going to be looking for algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus. Now, it doesn't have to be that. The way most of our students do it is algebra, geometry, pre-calculus, and calculus. That's fine, but they're looking for a decent sequence of what's happening. You don't. If you see calculus on year 1 and algebra on year 2, you're scratching your head. What is this person doing? So they're looking for logic and common sense. So, like I promised, here's a couple of red flags that I've been told that are just stand out to people. No GPA listed. No GPA, and nothing on the bottom, or it's unclear how it was calculated. They're looking at the numbers and like, that doesn't add up. No grading scale provided. So generally on your transcript, you will say my grading scale: A equal 4, B equal 3, C equal 2. You want to specify that, and that's what they're expecting. So say it. If there's no grading scale and you have something weird, like you decided to make an A 10 points and a B 5 points or something like that, you need to explain that. And because if it doesn't make complete sense to them, it needs to be there. Vague or creative course names with no explanation. And we see this one a lot in homeschool. We see it in some smaller schools too, but vague where we don't know. Like I said, if you say math 1, don't know what that means. Missing years. A lot of times we'll see transcripts that say only the 10th and 11th. To 11th and 12th grade, for instance. They're looking for 4 years. Inflated credits. So if you're saying they took biology and it was 2 points. In other words, when it's normally one credit for biology, but you gave 2 credits for biology that year, which maybe I'm saying it's advanced biology and it's starting to sound like that weighted GPA, if you will. You're like, they don't understand that, and that's a red flag. So what they're looking for is this is kind of your good pile, this is your bad pile, these don't fit, and here's the question marks, the red flags, and so that goes into another pile. So you don't want to really be in that pile unless you can really back it up, because now they're going to take more time in looking at things. And again, this is generally a bigger issue for the more competitive schools or the more competitive programs. So for instance, you might go to Texas A&M, and getting in there is probably not that difficult, but there might be a program in advanced mathematics, for instance, that maybe is very competitive. So schools and programs have different competitive things. So your best practices. So the things that they want to see, that person who's looking at your application, and remember they're looking at 50 to 100 per day. They won't make your job is to make their job easy. What they want is somebody said, I want to clear win or no win. I want to clear accept or don't. Don't make me think any more than that. But that makes their job easy. They're looking for a grading scale with A is 4 points. And by the way, you might say everything from a 90 to a 100 is an A. For more detail, a B is every grade from 80 to 89. So sometimes we'll spell that out on a transcript too. But they're looking for common sense, including course descriptions. And if you have elective courses or integrated courses or anything unusual, include course descriptions or attach a course catalog, or get something like, many times we have been asked for transcript information from us that describes the course, especially when some of our students are in competitive programs or something. And so we have on our website, here is our transcript explanation for Algebra 1 through Calculus. And many people will put that on their transcript if they feel like it needs more definition. For the most of our courses, it doesn't. But if you're going to do like auto mechanics, you might want to explain what was covered in that. Include school profile or cover letter. So they don't know your school, right? If you're a big giant high school in the city or in a major city, they probably know who you are because, again, the counselors know them. But they don't know you or your school. Now, if you're with a big cover school that's a homeschool, they might know that. But for many homeschoolers, they are the school. The parent is the school. So what is your approach? Curriculum sources, where are you getting it? What's your grading philosophy? You can give, and they're not looking for a book, because how many are they doing a day? Think about bullet information. Here's what our school does. Here's what's important to us. We homeschool. We use master books material, or some major vendor. We were looking for college prep courses and algebra, in the math and the science. Our grading philosophy is, the A is 80. A is a 90 to 100. A B is 80 to 89. Those kind of things. Simple. And think again, bullets. These people are scanning. They're not going to read 3 pages of your text. Not going to happen. So include standardized test scores and anything else you might have done with some explanation. Dual enrollment credits, if you have them. It's not that they're needed. I'm just saying, if you have anything else, include it. Validate your GPA and academic performance is what you're trying to do. 90% of this happens through the ACT and SAT. They're not going to really care much about anything else, but that's the big deal. List each course with its name, its grade, its credit. optional notes. If you want to put some optional notes on the transcript, such as Algebra 1 using Jacob's elementary algebra textbook, or we did a co-op, or we dual enrolled with a community college, things like that. That's fine. Let me just say about dual enrollment real quick. Dual enrollment is oftentimes a win, but your program might reject it. And the one I've seen before is like people who dual enroll for calculus, and they are trying to get college credit while high school credit, but they're going into an engineering or math program, and they'll say, our math at our university doesn't accept that community colleges. So you were dual enrolled, that's fine, but you're not going to get college credit for that. That's just those things happen. So final thoughts, from the inside. So an admissions officer, no matter what they say, none of them are anti-homeschool. As a matter of fact, at my university, I was often brought in as a homeschooler, a homeschool curriculum provider, and as an engineering faculty. And when they would bring in when they would bring in parents and students to talk about admissions to the program, I would be there to talk. We had a person who did homeschooling, and that was her job. And so I would come in and talk about, the faculty's point of view on that. So they were actually very pro homeschool, and many universities are now. Look, they're looking for good students. They're looking for people that will make their university look good, because that's their marketing brand. They don't really care where you come from. I mean, it's just not that big of a deal. But they do need to understand, and they need you to make it easy. They're also looking for clear, honest, straightforward, and your goal is not to impress anybody with creativity. Just give them the facts. That's what they need. So that was maybe way more information than you need to know, but many people ask, what are these people are thinking? What are they looking at? Who are they? And I think it's interesting to sit in their seat sometimes, or at least talk through what does it feel like to sit in their seat. Again, they are looking, for most of your schools out there, they're looking to from 50 to 100 a day. They also are comparing you to everybody else, not in terms of performance, but how do your transcripts look. If they're a competitive school, then you certainly need to get past the first cut, meaning you need to look like everybody else in the sense of how your transcript is laid out. Your competitive stuff is going to be your ACT scores, your extracurricular activities, other kind of things. But you got to get past the first cut and a competitive to get to the committee. And that's same for scholarships. You got to get past the first cut to get to the committee that signs the scholarships, if there is such a thing there. All right, so again, down below in the video, you will find the Homeschool GPA calculator, and we will also have that on the blog post that is pasted here with this video. All right, if you have questions, please always feel free to email us at support@AskDrCallahan.com.